Welcome to Route to Write. Planning an essay can seem like a really daunting task, so in this video we're going to review how to plan an essay using our very own planning sheet. So an essay planning sheet is really just a document that allows you to create a plan for your essay. It gives you notes on all your main ideas and all your supporting details and anything else you think is important for your essay, so that when you go to write the essay draft, you've already done all of the hard work. So here is an example of the finished product. This is what we ultimately want to end up writing. But getting there isn't that easy, so we need to use a planning sheet to help us structure this piece of writing. And here is an example planning sheet. Now there are many different planning sheets for different types of essays, but we're going to be working today with the informative essay planning sheet. And we've got our very own version that you can use for planning all of your different essay types. So the first thing you're going to plan is the title of the essay and the introduction. So you can see here that I've just written the title of the essay in my planning sheet. The title of the essay is Growing Up in a Bicultural Family. You don't have to put too much thought into this, and it doesn't take too much planning, so this should be a nice easy stage. Next, I like to plan for the hook. Now the hook being the first sentence in the essay is very important, so take a bit of time, try to find a nice technique to use, and just write a brief plan in that hook box. It doesn't have to be word for word what you'd like to write in your essay, just an idea works. Next, I write a bit of a plan for my bridge. I consider how I'd like to transition from this hook to the thesis statement, and I think about if there's any background information my readers need. Now, as you can see here, I'm writing in notes form. I've even used the equal symbol in my plan. Of course, it won't look like that in my real essay, but that's just how kind of flexible and relaxed you can be in your planning sheet. And finally, I've got my thesis statement for my essay. Now, I will remind you that in the Route to Write course, we go through all of these types of paragraphs in a lot more detail. So if you're a bit confused with the terminology, don't worry, it will all be covered in the course. Next, it's time to make a plan for the body paragraphs. Now, you'll see these actually go downwards for the body paragraph, so it looks a bit different to the introduction. I start by thinking about the topic sentence for this paragraph, and I'll write that in my main idea box, so I know that the topic of my paragraph right from the very beginning. Next, I consider the supporting details I would like to include. I write any pieces of evidence that I will use to support my main topic. Again, I'll add to the supporting details any more ideas that I know I want to use to support my main topic sentence. For example, here I've added a statistic. And thirdly, our final supporting detail, very brief, really in note form, so that I will go to write it in full sentences in my real essay. And finally, I finish by making a rough plan for a concluding sentence. This is just a bit of an idea so that I know how my paragraph will end. Again, it is not written in full sentences. Next, it's time to plan the conclusion. Now, the start of this plan is actually quite easy because you just have to write your summary statement in the conclusion. So I just take my thesis statement and reword it and put it into my planning sheet. Quite a simple stage. Next, I'll just make a quick note on the three main ideas from my essay, because in the conclusion we need to remind our readers what our main points were so that they remember after finishing reading our essay. So I've just added my notes there in the reminder of the arguments box, and as you can see there in the real essay, I've written that in full sentences. And finally, how am I going to leave my readers with something to think about in the big so what at the end of the conclusion? This might take a bit of thought, and that's fine. Take your time in the planning stage, and then the work is already done for you when you come to writing your essay. And this is what everything looks like together. You'll see there is a fully complete planning sheet there with rough ideas in each box. Nothing in full sentences, nothing completely written out with punctuation. However, when it comes to writing the full essay, that's when you'll really put these sentences together, make conscious choices with your vocabulary, try to include some impressive punctuation, and of course, add in some transition words to make sure that all of your sentences and your paragraphs flow and go well together. So to summarize, you can plan your essays in note form. There is no need to write in full complex sentences. You're only going to be using more time than you really need. You should do your research during the planning stage, especially when it comes to those supporting details to back up your main points, and also your bridge, because you'll need to know what kind of background information it requires. You should plan your 3 main points before you even add your supporting details, just to make sure that your 3 main points are all very different. If you don't, you might notice that 2 of your main points are a bit too similar and they're not really worthy of being different points. And one final thing is that you don't have to write the introduction at the very beginning if you don't want to. You might choose to write your main point and then go back to your hook and your bridge to see what kind of hook really fits this essay. So there's no need to do it in chronological order. Now, of course, we'll explore all of these essays in more detail in the Route to Write course, and you'll get lots of opportunities to practice planning and writing your very own essays.